Hello and welcome. Let me know if my audio is working properly. I've had some issues. Properly. I've had a few issues with my mic as of lately, but let me know how it sounds right now if you get the chance. Today we are going to be talking about just some of the latest camera news. I generally just love going live here on Saturdays and interacting with everybody. We have some pretty interesting topics actually today. We have the patent that was released by Canon, and it is a very detailed patent, meaning that maybe this is actually going to be something that is coming into camera very soon, and we'll go into details about what this patent actually is, what it could mean, and which cameras it could be a part of. We also have rumors that there is going to be a Canon R5 C Mark II, which to me was a bit of surprising news. I don't feel like they've really continued to be doing this. But we shall see if that is what works out, and that is actually what happens. Okay. I'm not sure if you're seeing this right now, but I just had a bit of a hiccup. So give me 2 seconds. A lot of times in the very beginning, we just kind of let people flood in, but a lot of times in the beginning, this does not happen. So we shall see. Hopefully I can get this fixed very shortly. Okay, there we are. There's very shortly. So yeah, I'm interested, but apparently there is going to be an R5C, or at least that's what we are hearing coming out of Canon. We're going to go through some of the major rumor sites and see what we maybe missed over the next or over the last week. And the way this generally works is I will go over a topic, and sometimes I'll clip that out throughout the week. Sometimes I won't, just depending on if I feel like the topic is something that is easily clippable and easily digestible. I know a lot of people actually watch after the fact, and the majority of people watch after the fact. But if people show up here live, that is always welcome because we can have a back and forth conversation for those that are here live. We will see how it goes. I'm going to let people hopefully start flooding in here. This is a different time slot than I usually do it, but I'm just kind of doing some experimentation on whether or not this is a time slot that might work well. In the past, Saturday nights actually did work really well until um, we got to Saturday night football. So I'm hoping that it will work well right now, and we shall see. If it does work well on Saturday nights, I may decide to move over to Saturday nights. If not, then I'll probably stick with Saturday mornings in the U.S. Time, because when I am in Vietnam, Saturday nights isn't very viable for me because just the time change. Or rather, it'd be Saturday night for me, but it'll be a Saturday morning back in the States. Like I said, I'm going to kind of sit here for a second and see if people flood in, and then I'll start going over some of the main topics. I'm not just going to watch my cell phone, even though I'm looking at my cell phone. What I am is going to make sure that the stream is actually live and that it's working properly. Let's hope that that is the case. Apparently, YouTube doesn't think that I like myself. That is pretty funny, actually. Let's see. They're saying that we're live. Okay, it sounds like we got a slight delay and nothing big here, but it sounds like the audio is working really well. If you are here and you're watching live, please give a like, and we'll get this out to more people faster, hopefully. And then we can have a more engaging, enjoyable conversation, hopefully. So let me go ahead, and I'm just going to do the quick rounds here where I'll go through. Sometimes we get very lucky. I will go ahead and do a refresh of the different rumor sites. And if it's not a main topic, or rather it's not one of the pre-planned topics that we have here, I'll go over it and read it if it looks interesting. If not, well, we'll see. Sometimes we get very lucky. I got very lucky with the Nikon Z8. There were some big rumors that came out one time when we were watching. We've had it happen a few times that I'll refresh because I'll look at it before I get on here. But then sometimes I will actually look at it during the time, and we'll get lucky and we'll see some new stuff come out. Let me go ahead and flip over here to screen sharing. Hopefully this is working. All right. let me know how the setup is and how everybody can see. Hopefully, see everything good. Okay, let's go with Canon rumors starting off here. Let's do a refresh. We have the Q2 2023 financials. I might go ahead and click on that here, but let's scroll down and see if we see anything of note, interest. We're going to be going over this later, as I talked about. We talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go over that again. Let me go over quickly. This is new. I did not see this earlier. Sometimes going over the finances live doesn't really translate well, just because it's a little bit more in the weeds. So sometimes it's hard to kind of get a measurement of things without really doing a lot of research. But maybe I can just kind of go down here and figure out if there's kind of an overall thought process. Canon has released a Q2 2023 financials along with the first half of 2023 performance. It looks like things are going well for Canon, as they have seen double-digit sales growth for cameras and lenses. That is good. We always want the healthy Canon. We want a healthy camera industry, and a healthy Canon is good for competition, and a healthy camera industry is good for everybody that's here. There aren't really any juicy tidbits of information in the presentation material, but here's a breakdown of Canon's thoughts on the camera part of their business. As for cameras, we expect the market to grow slightly to 5.85 million units in 2023, as user demand is stimulated by mirrorless cameras launched by each company. Since last year, we have launched 6 mirrorless cameras from entry class to advanced, amateur models, and efforts to strengthen our EOS R series lineup. And the second quarter sales of those products were strong, and sales of the RF along with camera units increased, resulting in double-digit sales growth. For the full year as well, we aim for a double-digit sales growth and unit of 2.9 billion units, which exceeds that of last year in the order of broad scope of camera users. Okay, so I'm not going to continue with the reading here, but it sounds like things are at least looking up. Now, to be very real, we're very much past, I wouldn't say the heyday, because it doesn't mean there's not going to be great cameras. That's not what I mean. But I believe that for the masses, we're past the heyday of camera sales, because camera sales back 12, 15 years ago were substantially more than they are now, and I just don't see them returning to that level, not considering how the smartphone market is at this point. Because it's not a bad thing, it's just the fact that smartphones are not for us. They're not for the enthusiasts. They're not for the professionals, the people that are making higher end quality stuff. They might be subsidizing a little bit. They might be something that we can add into our shots, but overall we can tell the difference between camera quality of a cell phone versus camera quality of even an APS-C mirrorless or a full frame like I have here. So we can tell the differences. We know the benefits of having glass and all that. But for the vast majority of people who do not know how to use a mirrorless camera, more than likely they're going to get better shots out of their smartphone than they will of a mirrorless camera. So yeah, unless they take the time to learn the trade, and just most people won't. The barrier entry is so low with a smartphone that they're already going to have in their pocket. So I just don't see camera sales ever rising to the levels that they were, or at least I don't know what it would take for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see that there are at least an uptick a little bit. That means that R&D will be healthy, and that we'll hopefully get better and better cameras moving forward, and better competition. All right, quickly, let me go over here to Sony Alpha rumors. We have nothing. I'm just kidding. No updates on Sony Alpha rumors. Got stuck with my Sony gear in Brantana Dolomites. I think that's in Italy, I believe. So new A6700. We kind of went over that a couple of weeks back. I think it was an okay update. I think it was a good update to what they had previous, but I don't think it is the mirrorless APS-C flagship that I think a lot of people wish that Sony would release, but maybe they never will. Okay, this is interesting here. So I don't know if this is, I hope that this isn't it. Says the first leaked images of a new Sony compact Venice camera. So we talked about a camera like this before, but I don't know if this is the one. Maybe it is the one, but I was hoping it would be like in a FX3 style body or something similar. As you know, for months I told you that some sort of compact cinema camera would be announced by Sony, and finally a Reddit user spotted this image, as this camera is on the set of the new Hollywood movie about F1 from Brad Pitt as a man actor. Spotted more images of the 6K Venice camera, and there are no detailed specs of the camera. As soon as I have more, I will share it on Sony Alpha Rumors. We did talk about this last week. I hoped that it would be a little bit more portable myself. But granted, if it's a Venice camera, I mean, that they could be charging something crazy for it. One of the things that was rumored is that it would have an extremely fast readout speed and a pretty insane dynamic range, which would be welcome for any camera, but a cinema camera for sure. All right, let me quickly go over to Nikon rumors. Are we going to get lucky with Nikon? Can we get some Z6 Mark III action? Probably not. Nikon announced on August 2nd, I guess of last year, the latest Nikon full frame mirror will announce. Okay, Nikon announcement on August 2nd? Question mark. Question mark. The latest Nikon full frame mirrorless retro camera rumors. So yeah, I don't think for a lot of people this is going to be what they're looking for. August announcements, most likely first week of August. 45 megapixel sensor, improved autofocus compared to Z6 Mark II and Z7. Okay, great. A few different lens bundles will be available to $2,500 range. Price, body only $2,000. So this could be interesting. I mean, let's just say that Fuji has been doing really well with these retro designs. I personally really like Fuji, and so maybe Nikon doing this is a smart idea. But I do think that a lot of people would like to see Z6 Mark III coming, and I think that's the camera that they could bring out that would hopefully really kind of. I know the Z8, the Z9, Z8 are spectacular cameras, but they're out of reach for a lot of people with that price point. Nothing else that's popping up here really big here. Oh, this was interesting. So I have this lens. It's actually on my Sony right now. The Tamron announces the development of the new 35-150 f2 to 2.8. And it will be on the Nikon Z mount. This is a really awesome lens. I really like it overall. Right now, I'm shooting it wide open at f2 at 35, but I really like going up to 2.8. I really like that focal length, 35 to 150. It's a really smart focal length. I don't know if it's going to be a lens that I wind up keeping just because of the way I've been shooting lately. Is the vast majority of the time I will have when I'm out at a location, I will actually have the A7S3, which is my primary. Like, I'm at a location, I want to make sure that I have the ability to jump up to that second ISO range, because I might be walking through a dark temple or a cave or anywhere else I'm at in a travel situation. So I really like having that to be able to jump up to the 12,800 and then stop it back down with a filter as needed. And it's also smaller and compact. And right now I'm rocking the Tamron 17 and 28, which I really want to have a 16 to 35, but I'm waiting for the version 2 from Sony. But the reason why I say I really enjoy this lens, I think it's a brilliant lens. I got it because I was able to sell some other lenses to get it. I think it makes a lot of sense. That being said, I don't feel that I used it as much because a lot of times I'm on the go. And I do have the Canon R5 C. I do enjoy the look of it. Especially if I'm getting, shots that are a little bit, more detailed, or not necessarily just of people. Because when it comes to people and faces, I don't mind a slightly softer look. I think it looks more cinematic, and I'm not the most beautiful person in the world. I mean, only the third most beautiful. No, but in general, I don't want to see all my pores. I don't need to see me in 8K. I don't think anybody wants to see me in 8K. But seeing, a downsampled 4K with the R5 C, if you're looking at a particular location. But I wind up finding that I have the 15 to 35 on that most of the time. It's kind of winds up being an overlap of the Sony camera. And a lot of times I don't have enough time to really switch out lenses much, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having dual cameras. So a lot of times what I'm thinking about doing is selling this lens, getting the 70 to 200 f2 for the Canon RF mount, basically letting that live on that camera, and then having my wide angle lens on that, maybe picking up a 50 1.4 prime G Master as well on Sony. So that might be what I do. But this is a great lens, and I really wanted it for a long time. I thought it was going to be the answer to my prayers, and it wasn't. My prayers were still unanswered. No, it was just, you get in the field and you realize what you do and what you don't do. And I didn't switch out lenses nearly enough, and it would be much easier and better and more efficient for me just to have. And considering I have two cameras and two different systems, but I can match colors pretty well. Yeah. Anyways, that's my thought process right now. Let me go ahead and jump back over to the chat before I keep going here and just see if we got anybody in the chat. We do not. So that's okay. But we do have a few people watching. And if you're able to watch and enjoy the time here, hopefully you can. But if you can chat, that would be great as well. But if you can't, just enjoy listening. But hit that like button. It gets it out to more people, and we can have a more engaging, enjoyable conversation. That is always helpful here. Let me go ahead and continue back, and we'll continue going over the different sites before we get to our main topics. But hopefully we'll get some people in here chatting, and we can have a little bit more of an organic growth. But I know most people watch it after the fact anyways. So yeah, let's go back here. Keep sharing. Fuji, come on, don't let me down. Let's see what's going to happen here. Just mostly lens information. And I'm not very aware of a lot of the third-party lenses for any camera company, really. I mean, mostly Sigma and Tamron, or, I usually think Sigma and Tamron are fairly high quality. And then you have, of course, obviously native lenses tend to be very high quality in pretty much anywhere you go. Of course, if you're in the L-mount Alliance. Sorry. Yeah, that was definitely perjury. But yeah, it was, yeah. Anyways, don't come after me, Fro. I've actually met Fro. I did one of his, we like talked, met on, speaking. I did like a mentorship thing with him when he had it on sale. So I literally had like an hour where he just like looked over my channel and gave me YouTube advice, that I probably didn't follow correctly, or else I'd be a little bit bigger than I am now. But yeah, anyways, that was kind of a digression there. But the point I'm saying is, I guess this kind of lens doesn't necessarily interest me, but maybe if it interests you, let me know why maybe my take isn't a good take. I don't know. I do know that there, of course, like when it comes to like cinema lenses, there's some really good third-party cinema lenses. A lot of times, even first parties don't really have cinema lenses, so that's on another level, but I'm just not at that level, so I don't pay attention properly. Like anamorphic, like for example, this might be a good anamorphic lens. I just don't know, and I don't have the pockets to know. Continue. So Fuji is it just released the XS20, which had some really good reviews overall. I think it's a smart APS-C move, but they pushed a lot last year. They had the XH2S, which I thought was very impressive. The XH2, which surprised me that it was very close on par, even with a lot of the dynamic range stuff, as the S. Didn't have the stack sensor, but we can't be perfect. But then the XT5 came out, which to me was pretty good counter marketing. I would have still loved to see a lot of the same video features that were missing, but they did very much market to, this is a photography camera first, and this is what This is like the photography version of everything, and these are more hybrid based. But yeah, so that being said, the reason I talk about that is I don't suspect much from Fuji coming anytime soon. Maybe the second half of this year or late fourth quarter or something like that. Maybe we'll get something new. We are supposed to be getting one of their medium format cameras that are going to be coming out. I'll be interested to see because there's been some interviews that they talked about it being a little bit faster of a camera, maybe something along the lines of competing with like the A1 and the Nikon Z9 and all those types of cameras. I don't think it'll be that fast, but even if it's a very fast, a medium format, I think they might have something there. So that'd be cool. Okay, let me go ahead and refresh here and see if we get lucky. MFT. So is that Microsoft? I see MFT is like the sticker sign for Microsoft stock, I believe. And so, yeah, but I don't think that's what they're talking about here. Don't know if Panasonic also plans to announce new MFT. Oh, Micro Four Thirds. I'm an idiot. Yeah. Yeah. So it is alive. That's interesting. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was. But yeah, hopefully it is. I think that it would have been great if they would have went ahead and had phase detect autofocus in the GH6. Was it Mark II that just came out recently? If they did that, that would have been good. This is always good to hear. We talked about it last week, so I'm not going to go over it too much. But you had 2 more people joining the L Mount Alliance. Samyang, that is another third-party lens manufacturer that I've heard some lenses are really good, but then I've heard some are fairly cheap. So if you have, an opinion about it, let me know. Obviously, Leica and Sigma are super top notch, and then Panasonic is doing their native stuff, which works out for them. Okay, so I don't see a lot of new camera news outside the topics that we are, already planning on going over. So I will go ahead and quickly go back to the chat, and then I will set up the main topics here, and we'll go over it. So let me go back to the chat and see anybody chatting. Nope. Chat, where you at? All right, it's all good. People watch after the fact, hopefully. Okay, so we have quite a bit of interesting news coming to us via Canon rumors. We have some information about a camera or a follow-up to a camera that I really wasn't sure was going to get a follow-up. But according to Canon rumors, we quite possibly will be getting the Canon R5 C Mark II coming. So I didn't expect it, but here we are. Let me quickly share back over to the screen, get back to Canon rumors. That probably should have figured that out beforehand, right? All right. Where is the ad? We just had it. We just did this. Here they are. So this is a CR2, meaning that this isn't just complete bogus information, but we'll read over what they have to say, and then I'll give my thoughts. We have reported a bit of information about the upcoming Canon EOS R5 Mark II, which we expect to arrive sometime in the first half of 2024. We've been left wondering if Canon is planning the same treatment for the R5C. We have been told by a source with a good track record that Canon has mentioned that they are working on an R5 C Mark II and that the original R5C has exceeded Canon sales expectations. I'm shocked by this information. I did not see that as being a thing, just based upon it seemed like it was almost always in stock, and it went down and down. I have the R5C, the original, and I enjoy it. I wish they had some stuff that they were doing to it. I wish they added C-Log 2. I wish they still would improve the autofocus and battery life even more so than they already have. But that being said, it is what it is here. If you are here and you're watching, drop in the chat and we'll talk about it and hit that like button. Okay, Canon does do NDA roadmaps for the marketing department as well as certain dealers. Obviously, there's no specifications or detailed information about the R5 C Mark II, but we do trust that we will see a follow-up and that it wasn't a one-off product like the EOS 1DC was, which was an older cinema style camera of the 1D. So my general thoughts on it are I'm a little bit surprised because I did not think that it would have exceeded Canon sales expectations unless they are extremely low. Um, but maybe it did, and they were able to add a premium with just adding a different firmware and slightly different body with adding the fan. So maybe just the repurposing of parts made it a viable solution. I do wish they would update it some. Add C-Log 2, I think, would be a good measure, and maybe that's something they'll add along the way, and it will show up right away in the R5 C Mark II or Mark II. Yes, R5 C Mark II. What kind of specs do I expect? I would think and hope that it would have better dynamic range. If the R5 gets a stack sensor, which I'm not 100% believing that it will, but if it does, it will be a much faster readout. I don't know. I don't believe that the R5 is really, or R5 Mark II. I don't buy into the rumors that it's going to have a 60 megapixel sensor. I think that is an overboard for that particular camera. I think they may have an R5 S or something of something like that may have that high megapixel sensor, but I just don't see the R5 really jumping that substantial. I think 45, 50 is plenty, and I don't think it needs to jump up. And by jumping up, a lot of times you have to crop in on a sensor because I doubt you're going to downsample from 9.6K or whatever it would be to the 8K. I just don't see it being very practical. We've heard crazy stuff about like 8K 120 and stuff. I don't buy that at all. I think that maybe 8K 60 might be a thing, but they need to figure out the battery life, or they will have to do some kind of magic in software, because the R5C, it does shoot 8K 60, but you have to have an external battery to hook up to have all the functionality. Because if you don't, then you have issues with essentially just not having enough power to draw the voltage or the wattage or whatever the actual terminology is. Essentially, it's not just the amount of juice, it's the amount of juice that it's able to flow out of the battery is not enough to power the R5C at 8K60. So yeah, for them to have an R5 C Mark II, I suspect that the battery life will be extremely improved. Hopefully, it will continue to be improved in the first model as well. And I just see maybe better dynamic range, maybe slight megapixel bump, and maybe slight resolution bump, and then hopefully no overheating with that fan. That's what I foresee on the R5 C Mark II. They're saying the product of 2025. So this might give me a reason that if the R5 comes out, the R5 Mark II, which I'm not 100% sold I would get anyways, but if the R5 Mark II comes out and is slightly doesn't exactly give me some of the things that I would like to see, that might be a reason for me to hold off and just see what the R5 C Mark II has to offer. But to be honest, I still have a lot of room that I could grow with the cameras that I have. And even though I like following and keeping up with the latest and greatest, I find myself as I'm developing my craft, realizing that I'll sometimes less is more, and knowing your camera and getting really familiar with the camera that you got, especially if it's camera that's like an R5 C or a A7S3. These are more than capable of creating what I am capable of making, and I just need to get better at my craft of just the cinematography and video, or the cinematography and the composition, and more importantly the storytelling, because I think that is something that is always something worth sharpening, and it's something that to be real, I feel like I am lacking. So that was a bit of a long ramble, but what are your thoughts on the R5 C Mark II having, or the R5C having a follow up? Do you believe that there is going to be an R5 C Mark II? I mean, this is a CR2 from Canon Rumors, so it's, generally thinking it's not like a 100% done deal the way that they think of a CR3, but it does mean that I feel like there is a high likelihood that this is real. Are you surprised like me? What kind of specs do you think that this may have? What would you like to see in an R5 C Mark II? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. All right, let me jump over here back to the chat. Where you at, chat? All right, we do have some listeners. First time listener, long time caller. No, I'm sorry. what is the long time listener, first time caller? If you are here and you're able, jump in the chat. It's always enjoyable to have a conversation. You can ask me anything. It doesn't just have to be complete topical. I mean, obviously topical works, but you know, it could just be a question about cameras. Sometimes I have the answers. Sometimes I make up the answer. No, sometimes I'll just tell you I don't know. Um, but we do have 5 people watching. If you are here and you're one of those people, even if you can't chat, I appreciate you being here, just listening, just watching, and hopefully you're enjoying yourself. And if you are, hit that like button. It gets it out to more people. Have a bigger group, have more interaction. And I have to keep repeating that because as people come in, hopefully more people come in, I have to kind of like spread the word. Hit the like button. Okay. So, do y'all want to just quickly go ahead to the other main topic that we have, which is the main topic, the main event, which I have some interesting thoughts on. We shall see. I'll talk about it here, but I can jump over to the main topic. But I was kind of hoping to see maybe some people in the chat want to chat, but it's okay. Most people watch on the replay. We do have 6 people in here watching live, which for a Saturday night isn't bad for my channel. So considering most people watch after the fact, but hit that like button if you're here and you haven't done so already. Okay, let me go ahead and jump over to the main event for tonight, and I will give my thoughts. Okay, so we have an interesting rumor coming out of, or rather a patent coming out of Canon, and it is a patent that is quite possibly going to be implemented very soon. Now, this information is coming to us via Canon Rumors, and I will go over the article, give my thoughts on it, and think of whether this is actually a good idea for, well, a tilting EVF or viewfinder. So this is pretty interesting here. Let me go ahead and jump over to Canon Rumors. All right, so here we are. The Canon patents a built-in tilting viewfinder. So as you can see, it looks like from the diagram here that we're seeing, it looks like it is flush, generally speaking, and then maybe it pulls out, like it pulls, so it's maybe inside the camera and it has a snapping out workaround, and then it looks like it tilts up, but the hot shoe stays in place. Now, let me go ahead and read what they have, and I'll give some extra thoughts here. Here's an interesting patent from Canon on an EOS R series body with a built-in tilting viewfinder. This would definitely be a feature a lot of people would enjoy using on a camera like the EOS R5 Mark II. I have used such a viewfinder with the Leica M11 and love it. It makes getting lower a heck of a lot quicker and easier. The patent shown here is extremely in-depth, so I would wager that we will see this in a Canon camera in the near future. So this is interesting, just the fact that he says this about the details of this. So he thinks it is something that is going to be implemented very soon. So we can talk about what cameras may implement it. And I'll talk about some of the downsides if they do decide to implement this thing. So that being said, so what are the next cameras that we believe that are on the docket for Canon and makes the most sense? Well, we have the R1, the Canon EOS R1, which is their flagship of flagship cameras, supposedly. That should be coming either at the end of this year or early next year. And then we also have a Canon R5 Mark II, which should be coming, or at least is speculated to be coming in the first half of 2024. And if that is the case, those are the next 2 major cameras. And if this is going to be implemented anytime soon, I would assume that it would be getting implemented in those cameras. Some of the benefits, like he said, are the fact that you can get lower quicker and just it's nice to not have to put your head back in an awkward position to get a good shot. It does kind of remind me and harkens back to the way the old film cameras used to be, where it would look down and you would have that. Now, also videography cameras, a lot of them kind of like to have that. Like if you're looking at video cameras and camcorders, having that up look is enjoyable. I can see that being a good thing because a lot of times I wind up having to use my LCD screen, but you can't really hold in deep. I like using the EVF for video. That being said, a lot of times you can't get that low angle that makes things look bigger than they maybe are, or not necessarily just bigger than they are. But if you're filming in a low angle, it makes, it gives everything a grander scale. And depending on what you're shooting, that is often, especially environmental type situations, um, that is always a cool effect to be able to have. But the only way of really doing that is to use the LCD screen. But if you have a tilting EVF, it would be nice to be able to, you could do that down and up motion. And if you shoot slightly lower, it just gives that sense of wonder as well. Kind of, how did things look when you were a kid? Everything looked more spectacular and bigger because a lot of times we're shorter. And yeah, it might be the novelty of just seeing things for the first time. But having that translated in cinematography is, generally speaking, a good thing. Obviously, for photographers, being able to get low and just get a good shot is also a good thing. So there's benefits. I think it's very interesting. I like it. But the big problem that I see, if this is going to be implemented in like the R1 is supposed to be and needs to be a rugged camera. It needs to be something it needs to be something that's extremely reliable because it's a flagship. A lot of times it's something that's used in high action sports photography, or even photography that may be out in the elements, that needs to be high action and high quality. And I suspect it to be a heavier, bulky body. I don't know if having the extra moving piece of, just even the tilt. I don't know if it comes out and then tilts up. I can't quite tell from there, but it looks like it moves out and tilts up by the one diagram here. Actually, it shows it again where it's here, and then it looks like it pops out and then goes up. But even if it's just flush and goes up, to me, there's extra moving parts. Anytime you have extra moving parts, it's going to hurt the reliability slightly. So maybe it wouldn't be a big deal for people, but I can see some professionals not necessarily being sold on it, especially if they want to get a workhouse, powerhouse camera that they want to last them for a long time. So I see that being the downside. Maybe that might be a reason for them not to put this in the R1 and maybe experiment it with the R5 Mark II, considering that it's at least a little bit more prosumer and not just straight up pro, and not necessarily something that people would be using in like a you have to make this work scenario. Not that you can't with the R5. It's just there's a different levels. There's always levels. So maybe it won't be in the R1. Maybe it won't be in, or maybe it will be in the R5 Mark II. Maybe it won't be in any camera, but they're wagering that it will be coming to cameras soon. Those are the next two cameras that seem to be making sense, that we're hearing the most rumors about. But what are your thoughts about this camera? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. Do you think that this is a good idea for a camera like this to come out? Do you think you like the idea of having a tilting EVF? Do you think that the pros of the extra use case outweighs the cons of the loss in durability? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. All right, let me go back here to the chat. Is the chat here? No. So it looks like we just have a few listeners here today, which of course 100% appreciate, like I said before. But that being said, we've went over our main topics. If you are here and you're listening and you can jump in the chat right now, then that's cool. If you can't, that's fine. We'll end it a bit early. It's getting kind of late here on Saturday night. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate you listening. And I hope that you got some enjoyment out of today, even though, sometimes I'm still trying to figure out the best flow of the show. Sometimes I have some technical difficulties, but I appreciate everybody having some patience with me. So yeah, I appreciate you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and call it because I don't see anybody chatting. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate you. Always appreciate any support that you're able to give. If you have happened to not subscribe or haven't subscribed yet, that is always appreciated. Hit the like button if you're watching this on the after show as well. Until next time. if I ever figure this out properly. Peace.